Well, thanks for tuning into the market wrap. And it was a day of trade which was very, very volatile, you would have to say. But I think there is some underlying strength out there which all of us need to recognize. And we'll get to the trade takeaways in a bit. But first, what the markets did. And well, I think led by technology and to an extent banking, I think did reasonably okay. It's about 25 points, about 0.22% in the green. It was a nothing sort of a day. But remember, it was a nothing sort of market for most Asian bourses as well. And the US Qs are probably not too positive, which Nickey will, of course, speak about. But just laying out what worked and what didn't. So, Titan, Tech Mahindra, Shree Cement, Reddy's, it was a mixed bag of stocks which did well. Not present in the top 10 were the names like Reliance, HDFC, etc., which were shining. What didn't do well, and that's the key point. Remember in the morning we spoke about how some of the commodity names which had risen yesterday could come under pressure. And we've seen that happening to JSW Steel and Tata Steel at least, down about a couple of percentage points. Airtel, once again, back to its losing ways, 3.25%. But the showstopper, of course, was Bpcl, which was down about 8.5%. Nickey Johnson, Nickey, good afternoon. And Bpcl clearly took the wind out of the sails for anybody who was long.
Yeah, clearly a 9% downtick there and ended the day 8.5% lower. So clearly, a big profit booking, huge amount of profit booking coming in for that counter. Having said that, even the other large caps, even after Jeffries initiated or assumed the coverage for metal counters, you did see that amount of profit booking coming in for those as well. But for BPCL, typically, the last date of global invitation for expression of interest for divestment of 52% stake held by Government of India in this company is now extended to November 16th. All that we're getting is just dates. Probably that's not gone down well with the shareholders. And also early in the morning, an ET report suggested that Rosneft and Aramco are unlikely to bin in the privatization of a BPCL. So that also one more negative development coming in for the counter. But then overall, I would say that, BPCL along with the few other counters that we had, at least in terms of metal counters, they took a smart beating out there, if I could use that word in the first term. But then, Niraj, I'm going to come back to you and ask you about the mid-cap mover space because GMM Fowler, that stock, went up by as much as 5% again in today's session.
Yeah, but frankly, if you just look at how the mid-cap space shaped up per se, just bring up the movers function on the terminal and you will see what I'm talking about. I think there were some interesting moves there. The market breadth, on the larger names was probably still even Stevens or maybe slightly in favor of the declines, at least on the derivative side. But the overall mover space will show you that how it was in favor of the decliners. What did well? Advanced enzymes back to winning ways, 12.5%, but it's a very volatile stock. You'll be mindful of that. The gainers were in the pharma and chemical space, right? So Solar Active, BASF, Bliss GBS, Naveen Fluorine, Galaxy Surfactants. Those were the set of names which did really well. So specialty chemical, pharma, Aarti Drugs following suit. Welspun had a big order win and that stock was about 5%. What lost out though, interestingly, as repeatedly happening in the mid-cap space as well, is that if commodities corrected on the large cap side, mid cap side, two commodity stocks had some corrective moves. So likes of SAIL, etc., went down, and some individual names like Dixon, for example, went up down about 3.5% too. But yeah, some individual names which stood out, Nickey, included a DMM for them.
Yeah, and early in the day, you also had a report coming in from HT which said that the entire OFS is on SEBI's radar. So we were expecting some amount of negative traction on this one, but clearly it's the smart money which has moved in, which has led to the smart uptick that we've seen. You had Plutus Wealth Management, which is acquired in more than 1% stake in the counter. After all said and done for the stock with regard to the speculation around the SLB segment, insider trading, all of those allegations. Despite that, it's a second day of up move. What also did not do well in trade was Punjab National Bank, although the bank here, came out on the exchange and informed that it has not received any instruction coming in from RBI to buy Lakshmi Vilas Bank. And the bank reported the news is incorrect, but still it did recover from the day's low. But then nevertheless, it was a down session of trade for this counter. Apart from Lakshmi Vilas Bank, where a huge development happened, there are not a daily occurrence of such news where the shareholders have, ousted the CEO, the company. The bank has said that it's going to be meeting in all the obligation, has not seen any deposit outflows. None of them augured well. The stock took a big hit in trade, 8.5, 6.5, 7.5 kind of, the gyrations for this counter as well. But then what I also would like to talk about is the IPO update, where UTI AMC, if you compare the response that we have seen as compared to Mazda Doc, at least for retail subscription, seems to be tepid. I mean, if you the 3 o'clock check that Access Capital updated was that the retail subscription is at 0.9 times, whereas for Mazda Doc it is 11.89 times subscribed on day 2. So clearly a big win coming in from Mazda Doc at this point of time. But then Niraj, 2 more listings tomorrow.
It promises to be an interesting day of trade tomorrow for more reasons than one. Auto sales numbers slated to come out, and then Chem Bond as well as scams. And on both of those, the excitement is alive and kicking. It'll be really, really interesting to see that. But just keep in mind, viewers, very quickly the trade takeaways before we wrap up and talk about the global markets in a brief bit. But just this, the trade takeaways today, you have to keep in mind that high quality financials and Reliance helped the index stave off the losses. But there's a near even split between gainers and losers in the derivative side. So on the FMO side, almost even Stevens. And VIX corrected, and which leads one to believe that the underlying current is strong and is a buy on declines, and therefore the probability of a steep fall is going to be low. But very quickly, Nickey, how are the global markets shaping up?
Well, at this point of time, the sentiment, the first presidential debate which has happened has clearly weighed down on the European as well as the US futures right now. In the entire 90 minutes that we witnessed, there was not a single minute where there was not an agitated interruption coming in from both the parties. But then the next 2 settings would be a lot more formal ones. Having said that, all eyes, Niraj, would again be on the auto stocks for tomorrow, in tomorrow's market clearly, because these will be the companies which will be reporting in the monthly sales number. Apart from the IPO listings, the 2 IPOs which are currently ongoing and the new listings that we have on board, auto counters will continue to remain in focus. But this is what we have in terms of market wrap. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, and do stay tuned into BloombergQuint for more.